I had covered my share of political storms, but what unfolded that Tuesday morning in the marble halls of the Capitol was something else entirely. Judge Samuel Alito, normally the picture of cold judicial composure, was visibly rattled before the hearing even began. Whispers among aides suggested that this wasn't just about law or precedent, it was personal. Weeks earlier, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett had delivered a blistering speech on the House floor, questioning the integrity of certain Supreme Court rulings and hinting that some justices care more about protecting their friends than the Constitution. While she didn't name names, the implication had been clear to anyone paying attention. Alito felt targeted, and now here they were, forced into the same room for a high-profile oversight session. The tension was thick enough to slow time. Alito shuffled papers at his seat, his jaw tight, while Crockett, calm but alert, reviewed her notes with the steady poise of someone who knows she's walking into a fight and intends to win. This wasn't going to be the usual polite exchange of constitutional theory. This was going to be raw. From my vantage point at the press table, I could see the faintest twitch in Alito's eye every time Crockett's name was mentioned by committee staff. His grievance, according to a leak from within his circle, was rooted in more than political critique. Crockett had allegedly blocked a quiet back-channel initiative he supported, one that would have shielded certain judicial decisions from public scrutiny. She hadn't just disagreed, she'd called the move a coward's escape from accountability in an interview that went viral. Now, with cameras rolling and the nation's attention fixed, they were about to face each other head-on. And something told me this wouldn't end with polite handshakes. The first question from the committee chair was routine, but Jasmine Crockett wasn't interested in routine. She leaned forward, her voice firm yet measured, and addressed Judge Alito directly. "Sir, do you believe the Supreme Court is accountable to the American people, or only to itself?" The room went silent. It wasn't just the content, it was the tone. She wasn't asking for a lecture in civics, she was demanding an answer. Alito cleared his throat, glanced briefly at the chairman, then back at Crockett. "The court's duty is to interpret the law impartially, free from the sway of political pressure," he replied, his voice carrying a controlled edge. Crockett didn't blink. "And yet," she continued, "we've seen decisions that overwhelmingly favor special interests, decisions that, coincidentally, benefit those with direct ties to certain justices. How do you explain that to the mother working 2 jobs or the veteran fighting for fair treatment?" The air crackled. I could see Alito's fingers tighten around his pen. He began citing legal precedent, but Crockett interrupted, not rudely, but with the precision of someone who knew the playbook and was ready to dismantle it line by line. She reminded him and everyone watching about leaked reports of private meetings he'd allegedly attended with wealthy donors and about the implications for judicial impartiality. From the press table, I caught the subtle exchange of glances between committee members, half disbelief, half fascination. Alito's discomfort was no longer a rumor. It was unfolding in real time. His usual judicial armor seemed to thin with every pointed question, and I realized then this wasn't just oversight. Crockett was pulling back the curtain on the myth of untouchable justice, and Alito knew it. Judge Alito's composure finally cracked, not with a shout, but with a carefully sharpened tone. "Congresswoman Crockett," he said, leaning forward slightly, "you seem less interested in jurisprudence and more interested in turning this hearing into a spectacle. Perhaps that plays well for your audience." It was a calculated jab, meant to paint her as a showboater chasing headlines. Crockett didn't flinch. "My audience, Judge," she replied, "is every American whose life is shaped by the decisions made in your court. They deserve transparency, not theatrics, and certainly not secrecy." A murmur ran through the room. Alito shifted in his chair, his eyes narrowing as if he was weighing whether to cross a line. Then he did. Your accusations are based on rumors and partisan spin. I've served this nation for decades, and I don't need lectures from someone whose legal career has barely begun. The remark was personal, almost dismissive. I could see members of the committee glance nervously at one another, sensing the tension had moved beyond judicial philosophy into something rawer. Crockett's expression hardened, but she didn't raise her voice. Instead, she pulled out a folder from the stack in front of her. Inside were printed excerpts from court filings, public records, and investigative reports. "Barely begun?" she said, her voice carrying an icy precision. "I've represented people in courtrooms where justice wasn't theoretical. It was the difference between a family eating dinner or going hungry, and I've done it without the luxury of lifetime appointments and donor-funded retreats." Alito's jaw tightened. From my seat in the press row, I could almost hear the unspoken subtext. Crockett was not just challenging his rulings, she was challenging his moral authority. And in that moment, the hearing no longer felt like politics. It felt like a reckoning. The air in the chamber had thickened, and every rustle of paper sounded like a drumbeat before a battle. Judge Alito leaned back, forcing a measured breath, but his words came out sharp. "Congresswoman Crockett, you speak of justice as if it's your personal crusade, but the truth is, your rhetoric undermines trust in the very institutions you claim to protect." Crockett didn't even blink. Institutions don't deserve blind trust, Judge. They deserve earned trust. And when the highest court in the land operates under a cloud of suspicion, it's my duty, and the duty of every American, to question it. That was the spark. Alito's voice rose, the calm judicial mask slipping. "You're questioning because it benefits you politically. You stirred doubt to build your own influence. You want people to believe the court is corrupt, so you can swoop in as some self-styled savior." A few committee members shifted uncomfortably, but Crockett's eyes lit with defiance. "No, Judge," she said firmly. "I question because real corruption thrives in silence. And if you think my pursuit of truth is a personal ambition, maybe that says more about your view of power than mine." Gasps rippled through the room. Alito's lips tightened into a thin line. I could see his hands grip the edge of the table as though steadying himself against her words. Then he dropped something heavier. "Perhaps you forget, Congresswoman, that the court has the power to interpret the law in ways that affect your constituents' lives for generations. You might want to consider the consequences of alienating those who make those decisions." The implication hung like smoke after a gunshot. Was it a warning? A threat? Crockett's jaw set. She leaned in slightly, voice low but carrying across the chamber. "And perhaps you forget, Judge, that the people, not the court, are the ultimate authority in this country. My loyalty is to them, not to the comfort of justices." I realized then, this wasn't just testimony. This was open warfare, and neither side planned to retreat. The moment Crockett's last words hit the record, the room seemed to exhale all at once. I caught the flicker of raised eyebrows from staffers, the stiffened backs of aides who suddenly realized they were witnessing something that would dominate the news cycle for weeks. A photographer in the corner, who had been half bored minutes ago, snapped 3 rapid shots, as if trying to freeze the electricity crackling between the two. Outside the chamber, the media swarm was already shifting into overdrive. My phone buzzed with push notifications. Crockett confronts Alito in explosive exchange. Justice warns Congresswoman over court criticism. Political earthquake on Capitol Hill. Every headline dripped with the drama unfolding behind the heavy oak doors. Alito adjusted his glasses and leaned back as if to reclaim some authority, but the sharpness in his tone betrayed him. "Congresswoman, your words have consequences far beyond this hearing. Do you truly understand the precedent you set by undermining the credibility of the court?" Crockett's lips curved in a faint smile that wasn't amusement. It was challenge. Yes, Judge. The precedent that no one, not even you, is beyond accountability. In the gallery, whispers rose like wind in tall grass. Some were nodding in agreement. Others clutched their notes as if unsure how to process what they'd just heard. I caught one young intern mouthing "wow" to her neighbor. Alito's eyes narrowed, not with rage, but with the precision of someone recalculating his strategy. You tread dangerously close to suggesting this court has lost its legitimacy. Crockett didn't flinch. If the truth is dangerous, then maybe the danger isn't me. The line landed like a gavel strike. And I knew, by nightfall, those 12 words would be trending in every political corner of the internet. By the time the hearing recessed, the corridors of the Capitol had turned into a living river of cameras, microphones, and murmuring aides. Alito exited first, flanked by 2 court clerks who moved like bodyguards. His jaw was tight, his gaze fixed forward, but I could see the strain in the way his fingers tapped against the folder in his hand. This wasn't just political friction. There was something deeper gnawing at him. Minutes later, Crockett emerged, greeted by a cluster of reporters like a prizefighter walking out of the ring. She didn't break stride when the first question hit. "Congresswoman, did you mean to imply that Judge Alito is personally compromised?" But her answer carried the weight of an intentional strike. "I meant exactly what I said. When a justice's decisions consistently protect certain powers over the people, it's fair to ask who he's really serving." That single sentence sent a ripple through the gathered press. I caught a veteran political correspondent muttering, "That's going to light him up." Word spread quickly that Alito had once ruled in a case tied to a corporate entity with indirect political ties, an entity Crockett had been investigating in her own committee work. The implication wasn't fully proven, but the timing of her remarks made the connection hard to ignore. By mid-afternoon, social media was a battlefield. Hashtags demanding transparency from the court trended alongside defenses of Alito's record. One post, a clip of Crockett's reply in slow motion, had already hit 500,000 views. Somewhere inside those marble halls, I imagined Alito replaying her words over and over, each repetition turning the heat up another degree. And knowing Crockett, she wasn't done. Her next move would aim straight at the heart of his reputation. The final act of the day unfolded not in the hearing room, but at a hastily arranged press conference in the Capitol's media hall. The air was thick with anticipation. Every reporter present could sense that something irreversible was about to happen. Judge Alito arrived first, his tone clipped and formal as he read from a prepared statement. "Recent insinuations regarding my impartiality are unfounded, politically motivated, and an affront to the dignity of the court," he said, his voice steady but lacking its usual authority. When it was Crockett's turn, she didn't bother with notes. She stepped to the podium, looked directly into the camera lens, and spoke with the clarity of someone who understood the gravity of the moment. "Judge Alito believes this is about politics. It isn't. This is about the American people's right to trust that the law is applied equally, without secret debts or hidden loyalties." She paused, letting the silence frame her next words. If asking for accountability is an affront to the dignity of the court, then maybe the court needs to remember who it serves. The room was silent for a beat. Then the barrage of flashbulbs and shouted questions began. Alito stiffened, his eyes narrowing as he stepped away from the podium without answering a single reporter. Within hours, every major news network replayed Crockett's remarks on a loop. Analysts debated whether she had crossed a line or simply spoken an uncomfortable truth. Online, the divide was fierce, but the impact was undeniable. She had taken on one of the highest judges in the land, not with bluster, but with precision, and left the encounter with her credibility intact, and his authority visibly dented. As I packed my notebook, I realized I had just witnessed something rare in Washington, a confrontation where one voice, unflinching and unapologetic, could shift the public's gaze toward the very foundations of power.